Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined by my blue collar badass. And guys, today we are wrapping up our meetings topic of June. So we've covered all sorts of meetings, and we're going to wrap this up with our kind of team department meetings, which are maybe a little different than the toolbox talks that we covered earlier this month. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to the previous episode on Toolbox Talks, as well as the others on State of the Unions and everything meetings. So, the reason Matt and I can talk to you guys about this is combined, we've done over $1 billion worth of commercial construction projects, both on design and the commercial GC side of things. And with our 40 plus years of combined experience, we've screwed things up a time or two and have learned the lessons that we're now going to give to you guys so that you don't have to learn them the hard way and can just take them and run with them without having the scars. So, without further ado, Matt, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Screwed things up a time or two is pretty generous, buddy. Maybe you've screwed things up a time or two. I've screwed things up handfuls and handfuls of times, so I'm fully qualified to discuss those screw ups.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's man, on the design side, like most every project, it feels like you screw up so much, but it's really just it's most of the time it's feedback from the owner, like, hey, I don't like this. We want this thing over here. We don't like that choice. We want another choice. We're doing this, that, and the other thing. It's just like so much changes that some of the time it's yeah, you can do it right. Some of the time it's like we just weren't on the same page with the owner or the contractor or whoever and executing it. So there's kind of 6-1, half dozen the other on some of the design elements of like, yeah, that's not what we wanted. Okay, well, what do you want this time? Let's be clear about these things. Which is why a meeting is a good thing to have to clear up that before you move forward.
There you go, man. Clarity is king. So let's jump right into these team or departmental meetings. I've got my take on it, and I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit different than yours, just given our different sides of the table. So why don't you go ahead and start? And how do you differentiate team and departmental meetings from the rest of the litany of meetings that we have?
Yeah, some of this can be where like that kind of toolbox talk, that kind of scrum meeting that's first thing in the morning that we already talked about is you might want to have some of these elements in the here, but this is really more about like your team, where your team's going, and kind of specific things around your team. This isn't like an everyday type of thing, right? The daily meetings are the nitty gritty, the in the weeds, like what are we doing today? What do we get done? What do you need? Right. That's the nitty gritty of those like toolbox talks and scrum meetings. Where I think team and departmental meetings, whether you do this on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, it's a very different tone than the that kind of scrum meeting, if you will. And it's more akin to like a state of the union, but for your department, for your team and where you're going. At least that's how I kind of want to take these is like, what's going on, guys? Where are we at? What do we need? And this could be done a bunch of different ways. I've done this in the past where it might not have been a state of the union per se, but like we bring guys all to one location. We do some trainings, we do some outings, we go to lunch. There's kind of culture building within the team. So these you can take kind of there's a couple different cadences that can be done with these, right? There's the bring everybody in team event, team building, bonding opportunities. There's like the state of the union and where we're going, what we're doing, and just kind of casting that vision. And then there's, that other one, which is more social in nature. And then the state of the union's more kind of business like in nature, if you will, than just like, hey, let's go have some food and drinks and, have a good time. So there can be a bunch of different cadences and reasons for these team meetings, but it's, again, having that clarity around what type of team and departmental meeting is this, right? Again, it's for your team. So you're talking from, you know, 2, 3 to, 7, 8 guys, right? Like it's not for the whole company, it's your department. Like, so for, on my side, it'd be like all the electrical guys. Or for you, Matt, it'd be like all your superintendents, right? That would be the type of meeting that we're talking about.
Yeah, and we do those. We split it up typically between operations and PCS, but it's the same idea. So, and I actually still sit in our PCS meetings. In our world, it's pre-construction services, is what we call our estimating and sales department. But there's anywhere from, depending on who's around, 2 to 5 people in those meetings. And with us, though, it's more, and this is where I was talking last week about needing to cast the vision more often, because we, specifically myself, I fail a lot at doing that in these type of meetings, these levels. These turn into very procedural meetings for us. We have them weekly, and we have a set agenda typically, and we follow it as rigidly as possible, right? And it's really what's happened in the last week, what has to get done in the next week. And you touch on what you did well, what didn't work, but it's really more also of a kind of a gut check, litmus test and update overall on where we're at with every different effort that we're currently touching.
Yeah, and I think, and the reason that we included this and kind of even added it here at the end is I think this type of meeting where it's not just that cadence meeting, right? Not that update meeting, but having that kind of mini state of the union, if you will, for your team often gets missed, right? It's the thing that gets left out most of the time because you're like, well, I see Steve every day. Why do I need to talk to him about like what we're doing? He knows about it. We talk about what we're doing all the time. And it's really never gets conveyed back down to, you know, um, and I'm going to relate this to a bigger company where you've got the CEO of the company, right? They cast their vision in the State of the Union and what's going on. And maybe in a bigger company, like some of the places that I've worked, you've got 100, 200 people where the CEO gives their remarks, the or COO gives their remarks. Maybe the CFO has their piece in there for finances, whatever. And this would be like, okay, I took all that from the C-suite, me being a department head, and maybe I've been in some other executive meetings and, department head type stuff where all the C-suite, all department heads are together. And now for my team, I can say, hey guys, this is what, Ed meant when he talked about this at the State of the Union meeting, right? These are the things that for you guys, here's what it matters, right? That here's why it's relevant to you and this team. Here's the things that went well that he talked about that we can improve. Here's the things that didn't go so well that we can work on, right? Here's what's required from us to get there, right? So I think there's, because you want to separate the cadence meetings of like shit we got to do in this meeting, right? Because it's a very different tone, it's a very different thing. I would prefer this be like a monthly or quarterly cadence to this type of meeting with your team because it is so different from the State of the Union, right? And it could be something that you follow the week after the company State of the Union, so you get time to disseminate that stuff back down to your team, versus like either preempting that meeting or you have it maybe right after. Like give everybody some time to digest it, talk about what occurred at that meeting. You as a department manager can get some insight from the C-suite from what they said in the meeting, and you get your questions clarified before you then disseminate it to your team. So that's kind of why I wanted to include this one separately from like the toolbox talks and those coordination meetings. Is this is that kind of bigger picture, but for the team.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think especially as your team is growing, or if you're in a larger company to begin with, it really tends to make more sense, because stuff gets lost, right? Stuff gets lost from the big full company meeting, and it doesn't often or always trickle down to everyone that really needs to grasp and understand it. In my world, we're still small enough, that frankly, if 11 people in a room can't all grasp it, then we're all doing something wrong. So I guess our our version of this meeting is a little bit different now, but I can see as we continue to grow and scale, this meeting becomes a much different look and feel than what it is today.
Yeah, and even today for those smaller teams is you have that state of the union, right? Here's where everybody's going. And maybe you do break it out. Hey, here's PCS guys, here's what it means to you. Hey, ops, field guys, here's what it means to you. But you at some point you probably don't have that in the state of the union, right? It's not, you're not breaking it down in that granular detail. You
Right.
leave that to your individual kind of department heads, and at some points there'll be some VPs, in those slots to run those sides of it, right? Or some, senior executive level person to run that as your team gets big enough to justify those things. And that's really what it comes down to is you want ultimately somebody who's not the CEO, somebody who does work with those guys on a daily basis to be like, hey guys, here's what this means, right? Here's the things that were talked about in that meeting that, we're all doing really well. Like, hey, we're really executing contracts really well. Our clients love us. We're following up really well. But man, we're not meeting schedules quite the way we should. How can we help improve that? Right? Clients love that we're communicating with them, but we're just not hitting schedules. So what needs to change to meet that? We're close, but it's only in horseshoes and hand grenades. So what are we doing to really meet these deadlines here?
Do you ever use a scorecard for these meetings? Excuse me. We um we pulled another one from Traction, and we use a scorecard pretty frequently, and it helps to kind of guidepost all those discussions, I think.
That's something that I have not done, is the scorecard piece of it. This is, and this meeting in particular is almost, in talking about it, is something that I wish happened more frequently. Because really, so when I was leading departments, the state of the unions were never visionary. So I had never anything to relate to my guys in doing this, right? Like, so this meeting is one of the ones that I've included that like is a wish list thing that I wish had always happened in me, right? My leaders weren't ever investing in me or where we're going. Or what would happen is, so like at my last firm, we were a satellite office. And so we had 15 people in that office. So we'd have the company State of the Union, they talk about all this stuff. And then like the office manager who was effectively my boss, would end up like shitting on things that happened in the State of the Union. It's like, well, that's not good for culture and doing these things. Like, so really this comes down to like making your whole executive team and all your leaders and managers on the same page, right? So from that State of the Union, and whether you do it before or after with your department managers, like to get everybody on that same page is super important. And it just, that cadence meeting of all management just doesn't happen the way that it should, right? Usually that management meeting is like, fires and problems and shit we got to do. It's never like, where are we going? What do we need to fix? What are we doing well? Right. There's no compliment and like problem solution. It's just like, fuck, we got to get this thing out this week. Right. Who's working on this? Can't we do that? Like, it's never a vision meeting. And that's why I wanted to bring this one to light is I just don't think it gets enough credence that it deserves.
And that makes sense. I don't have a lot to add to it because I just size wise we're not there. I've worked in larger firms before, and frankly they failed even worse. The firm I was at previously, the company wide State of the Union meeting was garbage. Wow, that was fun.
You're back now.
Okay, we'll clean that up in post. Not sure what happened. My computer went black and everything went quiet. I don't know what you heard or not, but I was just saying, I don't have a ton to add on this one because we're small enough that it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to do these meetings in the way you're suggesting. Um, but I've been at firms before that were larger and they did a worse job, frankly. The State of the Union meetings happened maybe once a year at best, and then there was never any follow-up ever. So I can see the need when you've got, multiple layers upon layers of employee division where this becomes really important.
Yeah, and it's kind of why it's here at the end of the month, right? This is a meeting that gets forgotten. It's one that, if you do have multiple layers, is going to be necessary. And then for those of you who maybe your State of the Union is just complete shit, it's an opportunity for you as a department manager, leader, to really kind of reinforce and reinvigorate the troops at your kind of department level, right? Versus like letting it fester. And it's also to not just, again, like the office manager at my last firm would just bitch about the things that got talked about at the company meeting. It's like, dude, this doesn't help. Like, we got to work with those people too, and they got to help us out on projects. We help them out. Like, this is not good for morale when you're just bitching about the head office. Come on, man. You know?
Yeah, I think in general, we have to get away from just bitch fest meetings, period. And they never solve anything. And it's very quick and apparent when a meeting starts going down that road. And it's like, all right, nothing good's going to happen now. Let's just pump the brakes, get back to a productive meeting where we can actually change something. We can actually make, an actionable step forward.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned here lately, and this comes from Alex Hermosi, is like, if you don't actually learn something, if your behavior or learning by definition is a change in behavior. So if no behavior changes, you didn't actually learn anything, right? So your behavior has to change for you to actually learn something, right? If you keep touching the hot stove, you didn't clearly learn to not touch a hot stove, right? You kept doing the same actions. So for you to learn, you actually have to change how you do things. And whether just implementing a structure in the meetings, like for a lot of folks, that is a big change to have a structure around your meetings. For you to talk about vision and where you're going, even if it's a kind of little paragraph, if you will, in your notes at the end of a meeting, that's a big change, right? That's a big deal. And it might seem small, but compounded over time and in every meeting that you have, that is a huge thing, guys. So don't take any of these changes lightly, because you're going to run a lot of meetings in your life. You're going to have a lot of structured events in your life. And so for you to come into it prepared, first and foremost, for you to have a structure to it, and then basically run through that structure of your outline with everybody, it makes meetings run so much better, and people can take actionable uh, items and takeaways from it. They can go and do things from that meeting, right? Or they can change behavior. Like, hey, this wasn't going so well. Shit, we need to change it. And let's do something about it.
Yeah, guys. I mean, what Dylan just said kind of nails it. We've taken the last month's worth of shows and devoted them to talking about the meetings we all have, right? In the construction world, we are full of meetings, but what we don't want to have is just meetings for the sake of having meetings. So we've been trying to show you guys, here's some key pointers for each of the four main types of meetings we all have. Let's keep them efficient, keep them productive, ways to keep your team on task, ways to keep your team informed. The more we can all kind of gel and start focusing on better, more productive meetings, the less of the shit meetings we all have to sit through. And that, I think in a nutshell is really why we devoted the last four shows to this topic, because it's not a real sexy topic by any means. It's not the most glamorous thing we've ever talked about on the show, but it's such a fact of life in this industry that I don't know, maybe everybody has a shit ton of meetings, but I feel like in the construction world, it's almost nonstop. So anything you can do to make those meetings better is going to be appreciated by everyone around you.
Absolutely. I mean, meetings are important. They're a fact of life here. So run them effectively. And the other thing too is if you start to volunteer at your local civic organizations, anything like that, some nonprofits, being on a board of something, like you're gonna have to run meetings because that's just the nature of being a part of those volunteer organizations, right? Or if you go sit on city council or any of those types of things, right? School board, PTO meetings, like those are all meetings that get run and where decisions get made. You have an agenda, you run through it. It's super important. And again, it's a fact of life in that we do a lot of these in whatever organization we're a part of, not just in our day jobs. So for you to bring good kind of meeting etiquette, meeting culture to these other organizations, right? Like if you had a ended a PTO meeting with like, hey guys, the reason we do this is so that your kids aren't little pieces of shit at the end of the day, like this is why we do these and we all get on the same page and we want this to be good, right? But like it's more like who, Stacy's got the banners for the next fundraiser event is, Tommy doing the car wash, who's bringing the floats for the next parade, like it's all just structural items, not like hey, remember why we're here is to raise, good kids and for us to all be involved in that, right? There's no vision casting in parent teacher organization meeting or frankly anything.
They would be better meetings if there was.
It cracks some jokes in there too, like it's to have some fun with it, like interject some comedy, makes meetings go a heck of a lot better.
There's not a bad meeting that occurs when people are laughing a little bit. It's just not possible.
Any other big things that you want to say about meetings, Matt? I know we've probably beat this horse to death, but again, it's to the benefit of all of you to run good meetings.
Yeah, I mean the horse is bleeding out rapidly, right? We've beat it and beat it, but and it's just what we've been talking about, man. Keep yourself focused, keep everything on point, but have some fun with it. Split these up into the main types of meetings that you need to have with your organization, and follow some guideposts, and things will be much more effective and much more efficient at the end of the meeting.
It's really that simple, guys. Again, in the show notes are kind of our outlines for it. Feel free to take these and run with them, go back and listen, and again, implement these in your team meetings, whether you're a team of two or a team of 200, right? These are valuable instruments that you can use in setting your meetings, delivering a good message to your people, keeping them all on the same page, and more importantly, casting that vision for the future. Why should people continue to work at your firm and work on the projects that they're working on versus going somewhere else? And you're only going to do that through vision. So hopefully this helps you guys implement better meetings moving forward, and you can help invigorate your team for the good cause of creating the world that we live in. So until next time, that's this episode of the Construction Corner Podcast.